Hey guys, Greg Alexander, and this is a backwards hat video because today I wanted to share with you the 5 craziest things that I have witnessed as a bass fisherman fishing tournaments or just out fishing. The first thing that we'll talk about today is I was fishing a Federation National Championship on the Kissimmee Chain of Lakes in Florida back in like 2005 or 6, something like that. And I was in the middle of the pack boat-wise, and most of the boats that year were locking down out of Toho into Cypress, Hatchinall, Kissimmee, the lower lakes, and I was one of them. And so we get out of the Toho Cypress Canal into Cypress Lake, and you got to make like a big, hard, sweeping right to hit the canal that goes from Cypress Lake to Lake Hatchinall. And so up in front of me, about a half a mile, I see all this water flying and boats peeling off to the left and boats peeling off to the right. And I'm wondering what the heck is going on. So I slowed down a little bit. And so I get up there, and on the right-hand side going into the canal, there's like a big berm there, you know, that obviously they used to dig the canal out with. And it's just like grass covered in that area and marshy. And sitting on top of the berm, facing me, in the opposite direction that they were going, was this boat from Massachusetts. Him and his co-angler are still sitting in the seat of the boat, facing us perfectly flat like that on top of the berm, 50 yards up the bank. And so I just waved and kept on going. Guy was from Massachusetts. I don't remember his name. I don't think I'd say it anyhow. I wouldn't want to embarrass him. But anyhow, that's story number 1. Story number 2, maybe even a little crazier yet. Me and my buddy were fishing the Fishers of Men National Championship Tournament. That year it was on the Winter Haven Chain of Lakes in Florida. And I don't remember if it was a tournament day or a practice day. I believe it was a practice day. And we were down on one of the lakes, and in this area there wasn't a whole lot of houses. There was a lot of, you know, forested area up against the edge of the lake. So we hear all this rustling up in the woods. So we're like deer or something coming down through here. And then we look, and here comes this big old fat guy, tucked in shirt, polyester pants, with a big camera hanging around his shoulder. And right behind him is this girl in a Hawaiian print dress and a sweatshirt. And so we're like, what's this all about? And so they get down to the edge of the water, and then he looks at us and he's like, oh, there's people here. And the girl looks at him like, oh, there's people there. And then he says something to her, and off her sweatshirt comes. And it was basically a topless photo shoot in the woods right in front of us. And we were like, what's going on here? We almost like felt like we couldn't leave because we thought, man, this dude might do something bad to this girl. So that was crazy. Then I had another story where we were fishing one of these Bass Club World Championship tournaments up on Lake Sacandaga in New York, which we actually won that tournament. And practice day, one of the guys in my club was with me, and there was a storm coming, and we knew it was coming. And it's a big, wide open lake, so we just kept fishing till we felt like, you know, it was getting, you know, dangerous, and you could hear some thunder off in the distance. And so I make a cast, and I'm throwing, you know, straight fluorocarbon on a spinning rod. And my line went out and stayed like 10 feet off the water and never dropped. It just stayed up there, like suspended in midair, and stayed and stayed and stayed and stayed. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, what's going on? And then I thought, we're getting ready to get struck by lightning. So both of us are like diving into the bottom of the boat, getting as low as we can get. And I'm trying to start the motor down here like that to get somewhere where we can get out of it. And fortunately, we didn't get struck by lightning. So if your line starts floating, something's trying to charge you. That's not a good place to be. And then, now I have to say I did not witness this event, but it happened in my area in the tournaments that we fish. And I was told about it, and I know the person, knew the person, he's passed now. So this guy had this old Skeeter bass boat, and he had some transom issues, and he had rebuilt the transom once. Well, on the way back in that day, his transom basically just busted wide open, and water was supposedly just pouring into his boat when he set it down to see what was going on. So he takes off, he runs all the way back to the boat ramp, and for fear of sinking, he just ran his boat right up the boat ramp, just about into the parking lot, from what I understand. And of course, that was the last time that boat got used. I wish I'd witnessed that one, but I didn't. And then the last little story I want to tell you happened to me probably back in the 90s. I was fishing a buddy tournament. Matter of fact, I think it was a year-end classic tournament. We ended up finished second in that classic. It was a classic. We finished second in that classic. And we had a pretty big bag that day, so we needed to get in. So we had about a half hour to go, and we're fishing in my buddy's boat. And he takes off down the river, and he goes, oh no, oh no, oh no. And he lets off of it. His steering locked up. So we're heading towards this set of flooded swamp gum trees. Fortunately, it was high tide at the time. And I jumped up the front of the boat to keep us from completely wedging into these, so I guess they were swamp locust, probably, trees is what they were. And got us kind of unwedged from into trees because we hit them pretty good. And I pushed us back out into the current. And he's like, well, how are we going to get in now? Because the steering was locked, like turning slightly to the right. So I took the trolling motor and I got us pointed as far to the left as we could, and he would go for a little while. Had to do it on plane because we didn't have enough time. He'd get on plane and go for a little while, and it's a river, so it's narrow. And he would go until he felt like he couldn't go anymore, and he'd set her down. And then I would jump up front, throw the trolling motor over, get us pointed as far to the left as I could. He'd get her on plane and go again, and we made it back in that day and ended up finishing second in that tournament. So you got to be resilient in these situations. So I just thought I would share those 5 little experiences that I had. I'm sure you guys have had some strange stuff too. I'd love to hear about them in the comments if you'd like to share. Thanks. If you like watching my content and you want to follow me on a regular basis, please hit the subscribe, the like, and little bell thing. It'll be appreciated. Thank you for watching, and have a blessed day.